happily milking it all. Amid that accumulating political damage, the president this afternoon insisted Whitewater is no Watergate.
We're not covering up or anything. We are opening up. We are disclosing. We are giving you information. Number two, no one has accused me of any abuse of authority in office. That's what Watergate was about. Number three, there is no credible evidence and no credible charge that I violated any criminal or civil federal law.
To underline its new spirit of cooperation, the White House today ordered all staff to fully comply with subpoenas for documents, right down to the notes in their trash baskets, burn bags, and electronic mail. And across the airwaves for a second straight day, administration officials sounded almost apologetic.
But I think the perception is the real issue here, and we've obviously taken steps to build a firewall to make certain that there's no contact with any regulatory agencies in the future without careful review and approval by the Deputy General Counsel of the White House.
Well, if you're asking me, did the damage control team create a lot more damage than it controlled, I think that's probably right.
The newly cooperative attitude is a direct result of Whitewater Special Counsel Robert Fisk's subpoenas of 10 top White House officials.
What kind of a signal do you think Fisk was trying to send to the White House?
That this is serious stuff, and don't play any more games.
Have you or any member of your staff had any communication with the President, the First Lady, or any of their representatives, including their legal counsel, or any member of their White House staff concerning Whitewater or the Madison Savings and Loan?
I've had one substantive contact with White House staff, and I want to tell you about it.
The subpoenas were issued after reports that Treasury officials had met not once with White House staff, as Deputy Secretary Altman told Congress, but 3 times. And what was the president told, and when?
Well, there were no briefings, and I didn't know about, for example, Roger Altman's meeting until he testified to it on the Hill.
Mr. Clinton did not say how informed he was, but one aide told Nightline the president was angry and embarrassed to learn of the additional briefings. That sealed the fate of White House counsel Bernard Nussbaum, who resigned under fire Saturday.
When Bernie Nussbaum asked to be present for briefings on an investigation like this, he crossed the line. On one hand, he was suggesting that he was trying to zealously represent the Clintons, and yet he also used his office to be present at a very confidential meeting by the executive branch. This is part of the problems of conflicts of interest that White House counsel have tripped over on previous times before.
No one should know that better than Nussbaum, who served on the staff of the House Judiciary Committee that investigated Watergate, served with another ambitious young lawyer, Hillary Rodham. Now, of course, Hillary Rodham Clinton has become perhaps the central player in the Whitewater story. Her chief of staff and press secretary are among the administration officials subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury. And Mrs. Clinton's connections to the Rose law firm, where she was a partner, are a recurrent theme in the Whitewater saga. The special counsel is already looking into reports documents were shredded at the Rose law firm offices. Tonight, a courier at the firm told ABC News he shredded a box of papers belonging to former Rose partner Vince Foster, the White House aide who later killed himself.
I was called by one of the law clerks at the firm to come pick up the box from upstairs and shred it, and I proceeded on doing so.
Also under review, reports that Associate Attorney General Webb Hubbell, a Clinton golfing buddy and former Rose partner, may have overbilled the federal government. Hillary Clinton's own legal work on behalf of Madison Savings and Loan before Arkansas regulators, and tax deductions the Clintons took on Whitewater loans.
I have no doubt that there are very serious questions of the way tax deductions were taken and the way income was not reported.
No one has accused Mrs. Clinton of anything criminal, but her natural inclination to secrecy on Whitewater may have already cost the Clintons.
She's someone who was just staunchly opposed to any independent counsel, raised some proper questions, but clung to that view far too long. I don't think that she has been one of the great advocates of being more open and forthcoming in this issue. I think that Mr. Nussbaum probably stayed a little bit longer than he should have, in part because of the First Lady.
People can ask whatever questions they want, and we will do our best to comply. But I'm just telling you, the American people can worry about something else. Her moral compass is as strong as anybody's in this country, and they will see that.
In Congress, Republican leaders would love to see such embarrassing questions put publicly in Watergate-style hearings.
If we don't hold hearings, then we expose ourselves to the charge of being willing accomplices to whatever wrongdoing may have occurred.
But independent counsel Robert Fisk told senators in a letter today that inquiry by a congressional committee would pose a severe risk to our investigation. And the former Watergate counsel, Sam Dash, said that comparing that scandal to Whitewater was ridiculous.
The only thing Whitewater has with Watergate is water, nothing else. That Watergate involved a president, while president, engaging in serious crimes, in violating his oath to the American people, in seeking to destroy our Constitution and even our democracy.
That very comparison, of course, is exactly what the White House fears above all. That is why it is bending over backwards to create the impression, at least, of full cooperation in the investigation, and why it plans to name a new White House counsel to enforce that promise as soon as this week. This is Chris Bury for Nightline in Washington.
When we come back, we'll be joined by the counselor to the president, David Gergen. We'll be back in a moment.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Volvo.
Talk about Whitewater and Watergate and all of that. You were in the Nixon White House for Watergate. Is that a fair comparison? Is this the same sort of thing?
Well, really, your ABC correspondent Brett Hume was on the air earlier tonight, and I thought he put it well. He said, you know, Whitewater is not about cover-ups; it's about screw-ups, and I think that's right. I was in the Nixon White House in the early 1970s, and it was a traumatic time. And what started as what Ron Ziegler called a third-rate burglary obviously grew because of a number of abuses of power, serious abuses of power. There are no serious abuses of power alleged here in this case. The worst that's alleged are there's some meetings that may have been a conflict of interest. In the Nixon era, we also made the terrible, terrible mistake of refusing to comply with various requests from legal authorities, and as you know, that resulted in a constitutional crisis when President Nixon refused to turn over tapes. In this case, President Clinton has now launched what I think is a very effective and aggressive effort to comply with the special counsel, to be open and forthright. Everyone in the White House is in on notice, and people in the White House have been working all day today to collect documents, been going through trash bags, been going through electronic mail and the like.
Well, you say screw-ups, but you know, there's screw-ups that one would have thought that someone might have learned a lesson from with Watergate. The president said today, you're going to be confident in the way we handle this. But you saw in our poll a plurality say they are not confident in the way the president's handling this. Isn't this what you were brought there to do?
Well, I must say I share in the responsibility for some of the screw-ups, and I take that share of blame. You know, and I think we all have, I think it's been stunning. You and I have been in this town a fair number of years now, and to realize that lessons are not remembered as well as they should be. You know, during the Iran-Contra period, I thought, my God, did not people remember what happened during Watergate? And now, in some of the times we have been, I think, haven't been as forthcoming as we should have been on some of these issues, or have had these meetings which have been, you know, clearly inappropriate, as the president has said. The lessons were not fully remembered, but I do think the subpoenas have been which don't show any wrongdoing, or they're obviously a command for people to come forth and testify. But they clearly have been a wake-up call, and I think there's been no doubt. In the last several days, the president has moved very aggressively. After all, now Mac McClarty put out, and Mac McClarty, the chief of staff, is now taking charge of this issue within the White House, moving very forcefully on it. He put out a memo creating the firewall. We've taken these subpoenas when they came in Friday night. Within an hour, we had a memo out to the whole staff saying, freeze everything, don't throw anything away. All day today, some 400 people in the White House today have signed certificates of compliance saying I've gone through all my files, my trash bags, my phone logs, and everything else. And here are the contacts I had. And now we're going to move forward, and I expect we'll move forward tomorrow on a general counsel.
And will that be Lloyd Cutler, as we were saying earlier?
Well, I think I'll leave the announcement to the president. I'll only say this: if it is Mr. Cutler, he would be a person of enormous stature coming to the White House, and I think he would send exactly the right signal to the Congress
He
and to the
also is a
country
person of some age. Is there a problem here? I mean, when the president looks around for somebody to bring to the White House, first he brings you, a Republican, then he brings a very distinguished but older gentleman who served in other... Is there a whole generation of Democrats just missing here?
Well, we've been saying for days that it would be wonderful if we could find a Lloyd Cutler type. Now, I'm not telling you it's Lloyd Cutler, but I will tell you that if it is Lloyd Cutler, it'll be very effective. And I'll tell you, it would also, let me say this. As you've seen in the last few days, Joel Klein, who's the deputy counsel, came in 2 or 3 months ago, has been very aggressive, and he's very, very active in pushing this ball forward, making sure we comply. He's been in touch with the special counsel's office. I think he is sending a clear message to the special counsel's office. By God, we are going to cooperate, and this president is serious about setting high ethical standards. The vice president made that point yesterday on television. George Stephanopoulos has been out, Mike McClarty has been out, everybody has been out trying to make the same point, and I think the message is clear. It's important to this president so that he can get on with the business of government, get on with health care and these other issues, to deal with this issue effectively.
Well, I think we want to talk about the president's role here and the First Lady's as well when we come back in just a moment. Councilor David Gergen. Mr. Gergen, we saw during the break there a little bumper showing that the majority of Americans believe that Republicans are taking their shots for political reasons. But you've, again, been in the Nixon White House, the Ford White House, the Reagan White House. Can you imagine the Congress, when you were in those White Houses, not investigating a matter like this, a Democratic Congress?
Well, I'll just say this. Of course, I understand the sentiments of the Republicans, and I think, frankly, some of them feel it's payback time in some ways. But I would also point out to you that, first of all, the magnitude of what we're dealing with. At the core, there has been no credible allegation of wrongdoing. We've managed to take a nothing ball and turn it into a 300-pound gorilla. But that's because, as I say, some of us have made mistakes. But I don't think that there's much here at the core. And secondly, I think it's really important to underline that the special counsel in this case, Mr. Fisk, with fresh memories of what happened during the Iran-Contra affair, how the congressional hearings did interfere with the special counsel in that case. And a couple of, as you know, trials got overturned in that case. Special counsel has just written to the Congress saying, I think it would be inappropriate, it would severely hurt this investigation to go forward with these hearings. We'll see. Now, there may be that say on the banking side of the House, I think they've got a couple of days of hearings coming up, and the Republicans have had a chance to have some questions. Maybe they'll have a chance to ask some additional questions. I understand Mr. Gingrich is getting together with Speaker Foley, but I do think that they will have very much in the back of their minds this letter from the special counsel saying don't go forward with these hearings.
You say no allegations of any wrongdoing. The president was standing there at a press conference today with the leader of another country, basically answering the question, what did you know and when did you know it? And he said that he became aware in October of the fact that the RTC was going to refer this case to the Justice Department. What does that mean? Was he briefed? Was the president briefed on this issue?
Well, I think he said in a press conference, he had a discussion before he went out there with some of his aides about this. And the truth is, he remembers he was told at some point. He does not quite remember when. He thinks it was about the time when a lot of press inquiries were coming in. He can't remember. It was not a big deal at the time because at the time he was told there was going to be a referral. It was a done deal, in other words. It was not something, and so he didn't do anything. It was an informational point. And after all, what was being referred?
But he was told by whom? By the Treasury Department?
He frankly doesn't know. I would assume somebody within the White House staff. I do not know how, or it might have been come up in any one of a number of meetings. There are countless meetings, of course, with the president. But after all, what was being referred? It was the case of Madison Guarantee, the S&L in this case. That was being referred for possible criminal wrongdoing, of which the Clintons were not being accused of any criminal wrongdoing in that case. They were accused of, it was said that her name might be named as beneficiaries of Madison. But it was not something that threatened him directly, as best I understand it, and therefore he frankly does not, he has only a hazy memory of it, does not know exactly when. But I think the critical thing was, the important point was, when it came to him, it was in the guise of, this is happening. FYI, you should know that this case is being referred.
You say the president wasn't a beneficiary. There's some target. There's some question about the First Lady's role here. And there's so many stories that the First Lady is angry, that people feel that they're afraid to challenge her, to give her advice. What is happening there? Is the First Lady in a different position from the President? Are they on different teams here?
No, not at all. Look, I think it's only fair to say that the First Family, along with many people in the White House and along with a lot of their friends outside, are frustrated about a lot of this because there is so little at the core. There are no credible allegations, and yet this thing keeps mushrooming and metastasizing. So people, naturally there's a frustration. Why does this keep happening when we've got all these important things to do like health care and a crime bill and that sort of thing? So naturally there's frustrating. But look, no one in the White House, I don't know any human being on earth who knows all of the facts and all of the situation. But I will tell you, you have covered Hillary Clinton. I just feel deep in my bones, this is an honest woman. I don't always agree with her on every policy. She and I can sometimes go at it, and that's terrific. I think that's wonderful in the White House. But in terms of personal honesty, I just don't think that's at stake here. So I think the President came out swinging today, and I think properly so.
You say that sometimes you've disagreed. You yourself have been somewhat silent on this matter. We haven't really heard from you since January. We went back and looked through our Nexus Lexus today, and you have not said anything about this in a good long time. And there have been stories that you did not want to be associated with this.
Well, I've come out of hibernation tonight to be on your show. Look, the truth is I haven't done a lot of television since I've been at the White House, and I think it's all the way back to mid-November since I did a lot of things during NAFTA. The last time I was on Nightline was during the NAFTA fight, back in November. So I really have not done much television. But the truth is, what happened within the White House, we formed a Whitewater team. And Harold Ickes in the last few weeks came in. He's been very effective and very strong.
But he's also been subpoenaed.
Well, he was called into a meeting and let the special counsel figure out whether that was anything unethical was done or not. I'm not the right person to comment on that. We've all said it shouldn't. The meeting, in retrospect, should not have happened.
We're out of time. So.
Okay, but the point is, we had a Whitewater team to deal with this. I was not part of that team. The rest of us went on with other things, as I think the White House should do, and what we need to do in the next few weeks. Let's deal with this, get the general counsel. Let's make sure we're fully in compliance. Let's make sure we're open and aggressive. But let's not forget why Bill Clinton came to Washington and why Hillary Clinton's in Washington, and that is to deal with the country's problems. That's what the people of this country really want.
And you think that'll be possible now?
I think we're going to be preoccupied in the next few days, but after that, I think we'll get back to it.
Thank you very much, David Gergen. I'll be back in a moment. That's later on this ABC station. And that's our report for tonight. I'm Cokie Roberts in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.